Welcome to Prompt. My name is Ginny. Let's recap this week's major news. This weekend, on Shabbat, a hateful piece of shit shot and killed 11 people in the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, also injuring 6 others, including 4 police officers. It's been called the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in U.S. history. The Anti-Defamation League has reported a historic increase in both anti-Semitic incidents and anti-Semitic online harassment. The gunman, who doesn't deserve to be named, made statements about genocide and wanting to kill all Jews during the attack, and had previously made anti-Semitic and anti-immigrant statements on social media. This Shabbat service wasn't any regular Sabbath. The temple was actually observing a special refugee Shabbat put on by Hayas, which is a Jewish nonprofit that resettles refugees in the United States. The gunman said on social media that these communities were bringing in, quote, hostile invaders. Wow, because causing a massacre in a temple isn't grounds to be a hostile invader yourself, apparently. He also said, "I can't sit by and watch my people get slaughtered." The oldest victim of the shooting was 97 years old. The gunman was legally armed and had multiple weapons with a license to carry. The conspiracy that Jewish people are responsible for the Central American caravan has been growing. Matt Gaetz, a Florida representative, popularized a video of a man handing money to women waiting in a group of people and speculated that George Soros was funding the caravan. And Trump tweeted the video too. Pittsburgh's mayor called it the darkest day in the city's history, but said hatred will never win out. Trump called it out as an anti-Semitic attack at its worst, and he even traveled to the community, even though Pittsburgh's Jewish leaders, including the Tree of Life Synagogue's former president, said that they didn't want him there. Trump also said that the shooting could have been avoided if the synagogue had an armed guard. And this, of course, comes right before the midterms and right after a week of other targeted violent crimes against major Democrats. Plus, there was also a shooting in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, when after being unable to enter a mostly black church, a white man shot and killed 2 black people at a grocery store. This climate of hatred and violence can't come at too much of a surprise when these murderers openly support our hate speech spewing president. You know, the one that said those white supremacists in Charlottesville that chanted "Jews will not replace us" were fine people. While there's always been white supremacists and violent extremists, we live in a time where these groups have openly said that what they're doing is on behalf of the president. And it looks like Trump doesn't even care. The Trump administration has already canceled a grant for an anti-white supremacist group and isn't planning on renewing an anti-domestic terrorism program. Speaking of white supremacists, Brazil just elected Trump. Well, their own version of Trump. Jair Bolsonaro won Brazil's presidential race with about 55% of the votes. His slogan echoes Trump's "America first." It's Brazil before everything and God above all. Bolsonaro is extremely right-wing, pro-torture, anti-establishment, and has mentioned his nostalgia for Brazil's military dictatorship that ended in 1985. Kind of sounds like make Brazil great again. Brazil has been in the news for corruption, high crime, and a struggling economy. Many Brazilians blame the leftist party for this and elected Bolsonaro with the hope that he can fix it all. And it's weird that he's managed to paint himself as some sort of political outsider when he's served 7 terms in Brazil's federal Congress. Like Trump, he's infamous for many derogatory comments about minorities, women, and the LGBT community. He called Black and Indigenous communities lazy. He said that if he had a gay son, he would, quote, prefer that he die in an accident. He told a fellow female lawmaker that she wasn't worthy of him raping her, and that his sons would never fall in love with a Black woman because they are very well educated. Let all of that sink in. And if these comments weren't enough, he has also said, "I'm in favor of a dictatorship. We will never resolve serious national problems with this irresponsible democracy." He has also said, "Elections won't change anything in this country. Unfortunately, it will only change the day that we break out in civil war here and do the job that the military regime didn't do, killing 30,000. If some innocent people die, that's fine. In every war, innocent people die. I will even be happy to die, so long as 30,000 go." Wow. After the election, Trump tweeted, had a good conversation with the newly elected president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who won his race by a substantial margin. We agreed that Brazil and the United States will work closely together on trade, military, and everything else. Excellent call. Wished him congrats. We also just had other news regarding international leaders. This week, German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced that she would not be seeking re-election in 2021. And I don't blame her. She's been chancellor since 2005, which means she was there for the 2008 financial crisis, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and the migrant and refugee crisis. Her Conservative Party has been losing a lot of support because of her openness in accepting migrants. Plus, a far-right anti-immigrant party has been gaining support. And this also brings me to Sweden, which is also having a political crisis. In September, a neo-Nazi far-right party gained a fair amount of votes, keeping both major political parties from a majority. So now it's up to the Speaker of Parliament to try and end this deadlock. Last week, we also talked about Yemen a little bit and its humanitarian crisis. There are some updates that could hopefully lead to some good news. Saudi Arabia and the US have had a little bit of a rocky month because of the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi Arabia also backs Yemen's government in its civil war and has blockaded Yemen's major port city. This is restricting aid allowed inside while 13 million people are at risk of starvation. Now the US and the UK are trying to encourage a ceasefire. We're two of Saudi Arabia's biggest trade partners. Mike Pompeo said that the UN peace negotiations should begin next month. He urged both the Saudi-backed side and the Iran-allied Houthi rebels to cease drone strikes in highly civilian-populated areas. Back to the US for some infuriating news. Trump made a statement that he was planning on ending birthright citizenship through an executive order. Birthright citizenship means that if you're born in the US, you're a US citizen, regardless of if your parents were. Trump says we're the only country with this rule, even though 30 other countries have this rule. Here's the thing. This law is outlined in the 14th Amendment. You cannot overturn a constitutional amendment through an executive order. Even with the current Supreme Court makeup, I find it hard to believe that they would let this happen. So why did he say that? Maybe he's just trying to inspire conservative voters to vote? Maybe he's just a bigoted idiot? Probably both. But it's so dumb because conservatives love the Constitution and taking strict and originalist interpretations of it, which Trump tries to embody. So this whole revoking birthright citizenship thing is pretty hypocritical. Also, this amendment is the one that allows his own children, whose mother was an immigrant, to be US citizens. Lastly, let's check in on that caravan that we talked about last week. The Trump administration announced that it's sending 5,200 troops to the southern border, aiming to stop the thousands of migrants from coming into the US, which would be the largest deployment of active duty troops to the border in decades. The migrants still have a while to go before they even reach the border. They're still about 800 miles away. And he keeps talking about how these people need to come in legally. Here's the thing. For the thousands that are seeking asylum, they are coming in legally. You cannot declare asylum until you're already in the country. Here's your to-do list for this week. Vote. Just do it. No excuses. Also, get a flu shot. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to Prompt.